I'm 107 years old, and when you ask me if I'm afraid of dying, I don't quite know how to answer you gently, because that fear belongs to you, not to me anymore. You're still living in the part of life where things are happening. You still have people to call, places to go, plans that haven't been finished yet. But me, most of my life has already passed. If I had to explain what it feels like to live this long, I'd say it like this. It's like carrying a suitcase for nearly 100 years. At the beginning, that suitcase is light. You fill it with beautiful things, dreams, plans, people you love. You carry it everywhere, and you don't feel the weight. Not yet. But time passes, and you start putting other things in it. Loss, words you never said, goodbyes you weren't ready for, people you thought would always be there, and then they weren't. And that suitcase, it gets heavier. But you keep carrying it day after day, year after year, until one morning you realize you've been holding it for far too long. Every morning I wake up, I can feel that weight, not in my hands, but in my chest. I make my coffee, I sit down, I look out the window, and sometimes I ask myself a very simple question. Is it time to set it down? You're afraid of the end because you think it's a loss. But at my age, it doesn't feel like losing anymore. It feels like finishing something that has gone on long enough. Most of the people I loved have already gone ahead of me. My husband, the man I shared a bed with for over 50 years, he's been gone a long time now. The friends who laughed with me, cried with me, knew me when I was young, almost none of them are still here. Do you know what it feels like to live in a world where most of your memories have no one left to share them with? I walk through my days, and sometimes I feel like a stranger in my own life. Not because I don't belong here, but because the people who made it feel like home are gone. And that's when you begin to understand something young people struggle to accept. The end is not a thief. It doesn't come to steal your life. It comes when you've reached the end of the road. And if you've truly lived, if you've loved, If you've lost, if you've cried, if you've forgiven, then you don't fear putting it down. You just feel like you've carried that suitcase long enough. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to finally let it go. You think loneliness means being alone, sitting in a quiet room with no one around. That's not it. Real loneliness is when you are surrounded by a world that no longer remembers you. I walk through my days and I see things nobody else sees. Not because they're hidden, but because I'm the only one left who remembers them the way they were. That street down the road used to have a little grocery store run by a man named Walter. He knew my name. He knew what I liked. He used to slip me extra candy when I didn't have enough money. That store is gone now. Walter is gone. And nobody who walks past that corner today has any idea what used to stand there. And it's like that everywhere I go. Houses, faces, voices, all replaced, all forgotten, except by me. I carry entire worlds inside my memory. Conversations that will never happen again. Laughter that no one else can hear. Moments that exist nowhere except in here. And when I'm gone, those worlds go with me. That's what it means to live this long. You don't just outlive people. You outlive entire versions of reality. And sometimes it feels like I'm walking through a place that looks familiar but isn't the same. Like a house that's been rearranged after everyone moved out. You try to talk about it. You try to tell someone what it used to be like, but they can't see it. They weren't there. And no matter how you explain it, it never lands the same. So eventually, you stop explaining. You stop telling the stories. You keep them to yourself. And that's when it gets quiet. Not just outside, but inside. A different kind of silence. One that settles in and stays. And here's the part that most people don't understand. It's not sad in the way you think. It's not dramatic. It's not overwhelming. It's gentle, soft. Like the world is slowly turning the volume down. Less noise, less urgency, less need to hold on to everything. And in that quiet, something changes. You stop reaching forward and you start looking back, not with regret, but with understanding. Because when you've seen enough, lost enough, lived enough, you begin to realize something. Nothing was ever meant to stay. Not people, not places, not even you. And once that really settles in, the fear starts to loosen its grip. You see, the way you think about death changes depending on where you are standing in life. When you are young, death feels like something coming towards you, something that takes, something that interrupts everything you still want to do. It feels unfair, too early, too soon. But when you've lived as long as I have, it doesn't feel like that anymore. Not at all. It doesn't feel like something coming to take from you. It feels like something waiting at the end of a very long road. Not rushing you, not chasing you, just there. And the strange thing is, the closer you get, the less afraid you become. Not because you're brave, but because you begin to understand. You begin to see that nothing in this life was ever meant to be permanent. Not your body, not your strength, not even your time. It was all borrowed. And when you start to see it that way, something inside you softens. You stop clinging. You stop resisting. You stop trying to hold everything together like it was yours to keep forever. Because it never was. And that's when death stops looking like an enemy. It stops looking like a thief or a punishment or something cruel. It starts to feel like a return, like finishing a book you've been reading for a very long time. A book that made you laugh, made you cry, left marks on you, changed you. And when you reach the last page, you don't panic. You don't fight it. You don't try to pretend there are more pages when there aren't. You just sit with it. You feel it. You let it end. Because the story has already been told. The only people who are truly afraid are the ones who never really read their own story, who kept waiting for the right moment, the perfect time, the better version of themselves. And now they're standing at the end, realizing they never really lived it. That is what fear looks like at the end. Not dying, but not having lived. And I'll tell you something honestly. At my age, I don't feel robbed. I don't feel cheated. I don't feel like something is being taken from me. I feel like I've had my time. A long time. More than most. And when you've had enough time, you don't beg for more. You don't cling to it. You don't fight to stretch it just a little longer. You just begin to understand that everything has its season. And yours is slowly coming to a close. And strangely, that doesn't feel like fear. It feels like peace. People worry about the end. They worry about pain, about suffering, about losing control. But let me tell you something. The body is wiser than you think. It knows when it's time. It doesn't collapse all at once. It doesn't break the way you imagine. It changes slowly. Like someone turning down the volume on a radio. A little quieter each day. A little softer. A little further away. Food doesn't taste the same. Sleep comes easier. The things that once felt urgent don't feel so important anymore. It's not a failure. It's not something going wrong. It's a kind of kindness built into you. A way of preparing for what comes next. Your body starts to let go before you even realize that you're ready. And that's what most people misunderstand. They think the end is something violent, something to fight, something to resist. But it isn't. Not when it's truly time. It's quiet. It's gentle. It's like being carried instead of falling. I've seen it. Not just in myself, but in others. People I loved. People I sat beside at the very end. There's a moment right before they go where something changes. You can see it in their eyes. It's not fear. It's not pain. It's something else. Something like recognition. Like they've just realized something they couldn't see before. I remember sitting beside someone I loved, holding their hand, feeling it grow lighter in mine. And in that moment, they opened their eyes, wide, clear, and they smiled. Not the kind of smile you give when you're trying to be strong, Not the kind of smile you fake for someone else. A real one. Soft. Certain. Peaceful. Like they had just seen that everything was going to be all right. And I remember thinking how strange it was. After all that fear, after all that worry, that's what it came to. A quiet understanding, a kind of relief. And ever since then, I haven't been afraid the same way, because I've seen how it really ends. Not with chaos, not with terror, but with something much softer, much kinder than you've been led to believe. So don't be afraid of the transition. The body takes care of that part for you. You don't have to force it. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to understand it. You just have to trust that when the time comes, you won't be alone in it. So why am I telling you all this if I'm not afraid anymore? I'm not telling you so you can make peace with dying. I'm telling you so you stop wasting your time living halfway. Because the only reason I can sit here and talk about the end without fear is because I didn't leave anything behind. I said what needed to be said. I forgave who I needed to forgive. I loved people until they got tired of hearing it. I made mistakes. I fixed some of them. And the ones I couldn't fix, I learned to carry without letting them break me. That's the difference. That's why I'm not afraid. Because there's nothing in me still waiting for someday. But you're still holding things. I can see it. Things you haven't said. Things you haven't done. People you haven't forgiven. Dreams you keep putting off. Like time is something you can save for later. Listen to me. There is no later. There is only now, and what you choose to do with it. Because one day, you will be where I am, standing at the door, hand near the handle, feeling the weight of everything you did and everything you didn't. And in that moment, you don't want to be looking back, asking what if. You don't want to wonder what your life could have been. You want to feel something else, something simple, something quiet, something certain. You want to feel ready. Not because you're tired of life, but because you lived it fully. So if you're afraid right now, Good. That fear is telling you something. It's telling you you're not finished living. So go fix that. Call the person. Say the thing. Take the trip. Make the decision you keep delaying. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. It never did. All you have is this moment, right now. And one day, you won't have it anymore. Not as a threat, not as something to fear, just as a fact. So don't get to the end and realize you were too careful, too afraid, too hesitant to actually live. Because that is the only thing worth being afraid of. As for me, I'm not in a hurry. I'm not running toward anything. But when the time comes, I won't resist it. I'll set the suitcase down and I'll rest. You take your time getting there, but make sure you live before you arrive.